ladies and gentlemen. We got over here just a little bit quicker today. We got over here just a little bit quicker. Not necessarily on the starting time, but a little bit quicker on the lives here. Switching over, I have to go and share all this stuff personally before I actually switch over here. So that's why there's somewhat of a delay for those who watch this after it's live. There is a little bit of minute and a half delay, sometimes longer if I'm trying to share too much, but I've tried to back it down so I can get over here and get to the live very quickly. It has been a day. Usually we open up with a talk or two. I'm not sure we can do that. There's so many things to talk about. I mean, the high limit train or iceberg continues here in the world, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for what's going on. Hold on, let me show you this little meme I made. I thought it was funny. I'm sure some people don't. But it's a headline that says, after signing Rico and Justin Peck Racing, high limit racing might be bigger than you thought. And it's a picture of, the Titanic with the quote, God himself cannot sink this ship. And then the iceberg that proved man wrong. And I mean, what was it this preventable? Even the Titanic scenario, obviously the quote, you could throw it out the window, but could have Titanic avoided this iceberg? I was somewhat heavily criticized last year by some very powerful people who seem to think that their ship can't be sunk. When I said at the Knoxville Nationals last year that you better play nice. Play nice. Too many players involved. Flo, if you go research, Flo is bringing Wall Street to sprint car racing, buddy. And I was trying to say, just be nice. Just be nice. And, imagine, when Brad and Kyle came out with their midweek idea last year, it was just to kind of add and to work with the Outlaws. And it wasn't met so much with an open hand or an open mind. It seemingly was met with somewhat of a middle finger. And so in that essence, that quote right there, God himself cannot sink this ship, in a way is the same type of, I don't want to call it arrogance, but what other word can you call it? When you sit back and say, my brand this and brand that, and I got this and I got that, and who gives a damn, and didn't meet this high limit deal with the handshake or open invitation, or yeah, let's do some stuff. Now, obviously, there's Dirt Vision and Flow that I think is the bigger entities here that are really at war. I think the exclusivity for the Outlaws is important to keep them on, Dirt Vision and make it to where if you want to watch the stars of this sport, I said it 4 years ago, it was an issue. If you want to watch the stars of sprint car racing, you had to go watch them on Dirt Vision. But because they want to, technically let that chain loose enough for 12 full races, and like I say, fully work with high limit, I think that what we have today is a repercussion of that style of not working with Flo or Brad or the overall sport in general to give it some support. Now, I've seen some people get pretty ornery. A guy we used to support actually called in, Daniel Sibley, I've seen was really ornery, really cruel to some people about this outlaw thing. And I know I haven't endorsed and supported the guy. He's the one with the young daughter who needed some help, and we tried to expose his situation, and he got some help from a bunch of different people. And I would like to say I publicly unendorse anything that Daniel Sibley has to say. It's pretty disgusting what the guy's running around and saying right now. Don't go and look it up. Ain't worth your time, technically. Just basically saying I'm out on that scenario. But regardless, I think that a lot that we're seeing here today is based on the way Brad and Kyle and everyone was treated when they tried to open this up, open the can of worms in particular of letting other driver or World of Outlaw drivers race other races under other streaming platforms. But I think it was just a little nearsighted to not work with such a powerful entity and to just say, you know, even though it was 4 races and all the stuff, it still felt like there wasn't a true cordial way that they were dealt with in a way. That's how I feel. That's what I think. I think that what we have today with this entire scenario is based on that treatment. And like I said, the way it seemed that the whole thing was acting towards High Limit, I have to call it a thing because I really don't know who what it is at this point. Kind of goes along with that quote. God himself cannot sink this ship. I basically, in my translation of that, is me as a person has built something that is indestructible and ain't getting fucked with. And now you got you an iceberg. And obviously today, there was a bunch of things out of PRI. I did want to talk about some other things going on. We do have a super chat already in the building. That's nice. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see what some of the people are saying down here in the YouTube chat. People been saying go to Facebook. Nope. Come to YouTube. Done with the Facebook people. Want it bettering the sport, keeping 2 healthy series so drivers can pick which one is more suitable for them. But High Limit is trying to kill the Outlaws. It's so sad to me. I feel bad for that guy, a very angry man, and maybe rightfully so, but still no excuse. And I believe he's talking about Daniel Sibley. Yeah, I feel bad for the guy too. Once again, just me personally, publicly unendorsing anything the guy says and support completely. As far as High Limit is trying to kill the Outlaws, I don't know if that's so much the case here. If I was to compare, and hold on, let me just for due diligence get the super chat up here. Thoughts on High Limit charter system, which I was going to get into that. They are doing things a little bit differently over there in High Limit, and we will address that. I am planning on bringing that up. Thank you for the super chat, Corey Dunn, and anybody else out there. If you want to support, super chats are definitely not necessarily needed. I would say it keeps this thing going that we're doing here. So if you enjoy it, want to keep seeing it, send the super chats. I'm not David Gravel. I don't have a contract and all this stuff. So any support is definitely a big deal for this show in particular. But wouldn't it be better? And he's saying High Limit is trying to kill the Outlaws. Now, let me get this back down here to where we're flush with the new comments. And once again, thanks, Corey Dunn. I want to say on that aspect of things, obviously the Titanic, iceberg deals a little jokingly. It's 4-sided. Outlaws ain't dead. They ain't technically dying yet. I mean, it's more predictional based, arrogance based. How things could have went otherwise. But something that is happening, and an idea in the movie world that everybody watches or has watched that relates to that comment of High Limit is trying to kill the Outlaws. And it somewhat goes off of what I just got through saying. I don't know if anybody remembers a movie called Rambo First Blood. Okay? And Rambo had went to war and died for, or killed for his country. Went out there and performed better than anyone in the world. Was the 5-time champion of this whole thing of war. That's what Rambo was. And he came back and in the own country he was fighting for, the sprint car country, for example, he was just walking down the street trying to get something to eat as well. Money, eating, all this stuff was a part of this whole High Limit idea last year. and working together with the officer. Give me a ride or let's work together and get a meal together. Let's make the meals bigger for everybody. But the authority in the situation gelled that idea and provoked this scenario that we are having today, I think, my opinion. So when someone says High Limit is trying to kill the Outlaws, to me it's more so in a self-defense situation. You know, and that's what's happened here. The other options, the other lanes, the other paths were presented by High Limit last year this time. And they were met how they were met and told to get out of town. And what happened when they pissed Rambo off? Then he all of a sudden went to killing their ass or hurting them. He could have killed them, but he hurt them. And we may be in that hurting process right now. Yeah, they're hurting the Outlaws. But I don't even think we are here today talking about these things if they didn't try to kick them out of town to begin with these ideas of sprint car and promotion. So that's kind of what I think when somebody says High Limit's trying to kill the Outlaws. And now I fully believe that High Limit would still maybe work with the Outlaws. It would have to have a bunch of handshakes, apologies, some kind of personal accountability or responsibility for where things are today. Somewhat of a, personal gratitude to the whole entire situation, lesser arrogance. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I said that as well. These are boss men. Everyone in the sprint car world, even the drivers, are privileged or bosses. I mean, they're all pretty much coming from the same kind of cloth. It's different brackets, of course, but it's definitely up in that higher one. And the owners of these things, these cars and series and all these things, they're used to telling people what to do. They're not used to getting told. They're not used to reconciling. Maybe in some deals and all that, they'll do this or do that. But strong-arming business decisions, are happening. I was talking to somebody earlier today, the High Limit just took every guy they got operating over there. Well, that's just business. Loyalty's out the window, right? Now, there's some people I think are still loyal. But at the same time, I see this scenario, if you want to say High Limit's coming after, the Outlaws, I think we're not here if everything was handled differently when I was trying to tell them to play nice. I can only cry wolf for you so many times. I can only tell you, hey, around the corner over there, if you walk a little too far, you're going to fall off a cliff. And if they just keep on walking, you can only tell them so much. If they just keep on going, there's nothing you can do. So, I mean, I just think that this is a scenario that has changed a little bit, and I think that we're here because of how things were handled in the beginning. Now, let me get to the Justin Peck signing. We'll get into the modified stuff a little bit later. Well, actually, let's hit on that before we get into some more details, because I see the comment section going crazy about the charter system. Lucas Oil did come out and say that they are going to do a different style chase next year. This is an interview with Rick Swale on Flow Racing on Facebook. I'm sure you can see it on all their platforms that they got out there. Basically, they have said that Knoxville next year is going to be their cutoff, and then they're going to have 4 races after Knoxville with the locked-in drivers to race for a championship within those 4 races. I think it's really good. I know the hype at Eldora was really great and grand, 1 race for everything, but now that hype will be spread out between 4 races with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. I really like that. And then also we had this pretty huge announcement today, not necessarily from PRI, but $100,000 to win modified race coming to Mississippi Thunder Speedway. That is a track in Wisconsin. It's off the Mississippi River, all the way up in the north of the United States. $100,000 to win, $2,500 to start on from May 30th to June 1st, 2024. $100K, looks like it's an XR Plus situation. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And I am hearing, I was on the phone with somebody who apparently is really close with Scott and everybody over there, Bloomquist. Bloomquist apparently is going to be at this race. I was told last night on the phone, good source, bad source, we'll find out if it's true or not. I was told Scott Bloomquist is coming back to full-time racing next year, as much as he can at least. They're at PRI putting a schedule out to people, getting support, and that this race is on the calendar for Scott Bloomquist. So some of you Bloomquist fans out there have something to look forward to. Now, back to the high limit deal, because this is the stuff that's just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. You signed Justin Peck today. At least that was the release that was put out to the country. And to me, I've been saying the last couple of days, you know, or I think about a week now, if they could get Justin Peck, I think a Justin Peck is the dirt tracks Mr. Excitement, you know, and can be high limits Sheldon Hodenschild. If I'm Flo, I'm marketing this guy very similar to how they market Hodenschild over there on the World of Outlaws. The driving style is just as extreme. He pulls off a bunch of close moves on the racetrack. Most of the time makes them clear. He has had some wrecking issues. Obviously, we saw the big Bridgeport wreck last year where his cage came apart. Luckily, he's still here racing with us. But this is a guy who is, in my opinion, Hod level as far as excitement on the track. And in my opinion, at this point, I would say, you know, it's hard to say he's better than Sheldon because he hasn't gotten out there much. But let's remind everyone that Justin Peck, in his family-owned car, I think it was 2018 at Tri-State in Hobstadt, almost beat the World of Outlaws, got into it actually, racing for the lead with Sheldon Hodenschild, believe it or not. Of course, that was the NASCAR at the time. And then all of a sudden, random drug tests come out there, and they got him for marijuana at the time, which is just insane considering everything else that you can hear and experience about in the world and of the pitting areas in particular. Considering Adderall and all these other things that are out there that are legal. And we're talking about a drug that technically federally should be decriminalized. We're talking about a drug that doesn't harm your body and actually stays in your system for long periods of time because it's not recognized as a poison within your system. That's why marijuana and weed can stay in a person's system, because it absorbs into the fat cells because marijuana and weed was used as food for the history of mankind until DuPont came in and wanted to make plastic-based materials. By the way, the Declaration of Independence, the actual paper, is made of hemp. The cells that were on the ships that came to America were made on hemp, which was weed. If you didn't harvest weed crops, I think it was like in the 1800s in Kentucky, you went to prison, guys. So this is just ridiculous in itself. I think marijuana should be okay, UFC style rules. I mean, the rest of the world has moved up in society. They're not still in the backwoods beating their wife and drinking, saying screw you potheads. You know, we're all modernized out here in the regular world. I don't know why weed consumption or use is even a deal. But regardless, I defended him on that point when that happened. Apparently he's all cleaned up. I don't even think if you're not using weed, or if you are using weed, I still consider you clean. You're definitely cleaner than if you're knocking down 24 packs every night. But regardless, this is a guy who came back from that. And this is why I used that example. Almost beat the Outlaws in his home state. Got crucified in this disgusting racing world that looks down upon a plant, apparently. And then made his way back and has clawed back to where he is today. And that is a story worth documenting as well, is this Justin Peck story of getting to where he's at today. And then once again, in my opinion, I think he's a Sheldon-type excitement driver. He's going to add that flair, that craziness to every race night. You never know what he's going to do. And in my opinion, he is just a little more consistent than Sheldon. In my opinion, I think Sheldon has some upsides every now and then that are amazing. But I think that Justin Peck has that out of controlness with that upside as well. And if you put him, I was saying it the other day, If you put him on a national tour with the right equipment and team, he's going to do some amazing things. And now Boot Motorsports is able to do that. And I'm hearing, or at least it is a fact, that teams are going to be benefiting a lot more contractually with the high limit sprint car series in a charter style system. There is revenue sharing with the team. So a team like a Boot Motorsports potentially is able to go on the road because they're seeing an actual number of a percentage that they're going to be earning by being a part of this series. Now, this is traditionally a NASCAR deal. Well, actually, F1, FIA does it. This is regular business, motorsports business tactics to have charter systems so that teams can survive and prosper and also pick drivers that they want. Now, NASCAR's a little out of whack with their charter system, and that's why they're taking big sponsorship and basically bribery to put drivers in cars instead of actually talented drivers. So hopefully dirt racing gets to learn from their mistakes they've made in the last 10 or 15, 20 years and not make the same ones. But the charter system is definitely interesting. And then you can sell your spot eventually once you get that spot to a worthy position. Now, the charter system does not exist technically in the World Racing Group, but it kind of does. So what I'm hearing, and once again, just hearing, is that teams within the high limit series, the charter system, there is at the end of the year going to be 50% of the revenue that the series kind of obtained through streaming, etc. And that will be dispersed through the teams that are contractually obligated with the high limit sprint car series at the end of the year. Well, and that's pretty much what a charter system is. The overall organizations make a certain amount and it's dispersed to the teams. It's the proper way of working government and not just a hoarding based one like the other examples that we get. Now, in the same light, you could say that the World of Outlaws World Racing Group technically has the same style thing. They just put it in bonus programs and stuff. They got these bonuses at the end of the year, this bonus appearance, this bonus, that bonus. And that, in a way, that could be worth more than revenue sharing contractually directly with the teams. So it's just how Flo's doing it is a little more transparent, I believe. And I think transparency almost carries value in itself more than monetariness, especially in today's society. There is somewhat of an anti all about the money stream coming up right now, just a little bit. Obviously, they're making moves that are all about money. But as far as dealing with people in business, people sometimes like to make the moral righteous choice. They like the transparency. They don't want to feel like they're getting taken advantage of. And when numbers and things are presented and people are able to see what they're able to do and what they may be worth, I think they like that a little bit more than like, we're not going to tell you, here's some bonus at the end of the year. So in a way, it is a it is a charter system. There is value in being a team owner in the high limit series, legitimately, like on paper. But that's a lot of different words. But you could say that it's more financially viable to be an outlaw tour driver because of the bonuses and the championship funds and this, that, and the other. It's all going to be interesting to see how it works out. Now, I see some people in the comment sections already talking about, okay, thanks. He needs to stay on the posse porch. I hope he's not talking about Justin Peck. Okay, thanks. He needs to stay on the porch with the rest of the posse. Not sure about that one. The charter system is like communism. What happened to open competition? I mean, you could still go race. It's just a part of a group. And that's how it works in professional auto racing. All these things are charter-based systems. The days of you're just going to a good old dirt track are kind of over. Somebody said that to me earlier on the phone, and it's very true. You know, the days of just running up and down the road, kind of outlaws. The world of outlaws style of just racing and gung-hoing is somewhat over. Wall Street has arrived with flow and streaming and things along those lines. I mean, the real money, the real business has now been injected into the sport, and you got Kyle and Brad working it. I mean, some people can get mad at the charter system, but it actually operates properly because the owners of these teams are supposed to be the first ones to make money. And under the business model of the World of Outlaws, I don't know if team owners can say they've made money, or can they place a dollar amount on the value of their slot within the World of Outlaws. I mean, can they? Can they really? On paper. I mean, and it used to work back in the day when you were paying $50,000 in the 80s when a brand new diesel truck was $6,500, because the owners would make plenty of money and they could pay a driver and this, that, and the other, and it operated functionally. But in today's society where the payouts haven't caught up, I still think they're behind today. 100,000, okay, we'll do the inflation numbers based on 10,000 and 50,000 to win in the 70s and 80s. And I have a feeling they're a little lower than 50 and 100. Especially when you equate cost to live and how much the materialism of America and the world, cars and just overall trucks and all these expenses actually come. Motors, how much have they times, So unfortunately, because of those things and the system we're used to, charter systems come in to kind of make it worthwhile, to build funding and profiteering for the teams themselves, the owners, the operations, and then the money gets dispersed from the teams down into their own organizations. And it works. Like I said, there are ways it goes bad, like NASCAR, they did a bad deal. Hopefully that some of these teams that want to go on the road don't get into some bad deals. I mean, hopefully they trust Brad and Kyle, or there's some smart men. I mean, all these people owning race cars are smart businessmen. They're all bosses. So they kind of know about crossing T's and dotting I's. So hopefully none of them get swooped into a deal like the NASCAR charter teams did and got a horrible situation with the broadcast companies. But here it's a little more direct. It is a little more simplified, I think. So it's going to be better. I don't think the charter system is like communism. I think it's bad to use political labels in racing. Communism, socialism, capitalism. I mean, dictatorship. What would you have called the World of Outlaws last year or this coming year, where they can't go and race wherever they want and they control their drivers? And, I mean, honestly, High Limit has broke the gates open for the free market of the sprint car racing industry. Even though it's on the backs of a charter system and other things, it's still, if you, the problem with capitalism is greed at the end of the day. Starts, and for those who don't know capitalism, the thing that kills capitalism is greed. Because the free market is what makes capitalism succeed. It works in the beginning of its stages, and then the greedy entities come in there and basically get into a situation where they mask themselves under an entity, a corporation, and act like little Caesars, little dictators within the capitalist market and destroy the free market. And that is what kills and destroys capitalism. Very greedy little Caesars who don't understand that the free market is what provides capitalism its bloodline. And when you cut that off and choke that off, it dies. So you can use phrases like communism with the charter system. And that's why sometimes when capitalism dies, which it's historically died multiple times, it usually does go to a communist or a socialist-based system because of the greed within the capitalist system. And that usually spurs into some type of war or something like that, because the little Caesars who have all this power in the capitalist system don't want to lose all this power. Power is what mankind is always after, trying to act like God in the world. So they usually arm up and fight the people who are trying to escape for freedom. So, I mean, like I used the word the other day on Facebook, nepotism monarchy, and someone called me a liberal. Oh, that's such a liberal socialist term. Wasn't, the actual sentence I said, I think it says racing is getting ruined by, racing and people, we don't need monarchy, even though High Limit has some monarchy issues of its own. And he said that liberal comment, and I was like, wasn't the people who escaped on ships and came to America escaping monarchy, like queens and kings and shit. They wanted freedom. So it's just like, whatever your perspective is, I guess you can make sense of it. But there's so many ways to look at it, it's unbelievable. Regardless, High Limit's going to be interesting. And they got some hitters. I mean, and I'm hearing, me personally, I'm hearing that Marks is coming. Marks is coming. Okay, so if Marks jumps on, obviously everybody's out there thinking and getting, and by the way, I know we talked about the high limit grind yesterday, people saying or talk about how it's easier and all this stuff, and I said it's not really easier once you get out and actually read that schedule and see the open gaps. Even though it is 60 races, I mean, you're going to run 4 days at Houston, 2 days at Eldora, minimum of 2 days at Knoxville if you don't run 3 for the Capitani, and then 2 days for the National Open, and then 4 days for the World Finals. So 60 plus 8, 10, 14, that's more like 74 races in a high limit-esque schedule. Rico even said it's closer to a true outlaw, even though it's not. You do have to be at a certain place every weekend. I saw the high limit room with Jacob Allen, and he was like, I hate being up and down the road and being told where to go. It's like, once April begins, that's what you're going to deal with. And I don't really know. Jacob Allen seemed pretty upset at Dirt Vision and the World of Outlaws yesterday. Like, he was saying some things like Dirt Vision's just stuck in the past and all this. And I mean, he was hinting on the Dirt series that they did with Kyle and Sunshine and T-Mez. But as far as actual stream production, Flow, sprint car wise, sucked compared to Dirt Vision. Dirt Vision has been the best sprint car broadcast that there has been. Now, I still stand firm in saying that when Flow does the late models, and I think, obviously Michael Rigsby loves that late models. That's where he's from originally, Dirt on Dirt. I think Flow Racing Night in America, ESPN-esque. I think Eldora Million late models, ESPN-esque. The big Eldora races that Flow does with the late model, unbelievable. But when it comes to sprint cars, I don't know where Jacob Allen gets the notion of, saying that Flow's just so much ahead of Dirt Vision. I guess their little series that they did on TV with FS1 was next level. But outside of that, like the broadcast of Flow, they weren't even in comparison to the broadcasts of the World of Outlaws. I didn't see driver intros and studio equipment and all this stuff that the little bitty Dirt Vision did. And once again, Dirt Vision is the local hardware store in this scenario. The big conglomerate, the Walmart, the Amazon of this scenario is Flow. Even though High Limit looks like it's coming from behind a little bit in this, they're backed by Flow. Flow is Wall Street. Flow is Discovery. Flow is Discovery, like the channel, Warner Brothers, World Wrestling Entertainment. These big entities are behind them. That's why this is not an NSL. People who sit back and still say this is NSL, you people make me laugh my ass off. This is not an NSL. There's just too much behind and Kyle's name and everything. I mean, the Indy 500 is already saying they've seen an uptick in ticket sales just because of Kyle. So you got the fame mixed with the backing. This is not the same as NSL, NSTs, whatever y'all want to call it. NSL, NSTs, I know there were two different things, but regardless, it's just not the same. But in the same light, I don't know where Jacob, he was just mad, and he was saying things that didn't make sense. Like, he was like, being up and down the road and being told where to go and all this stuff, and I'm like, well, you're going to do that? He kept calling it high limits. Everybody's calling it high limits, where it's high limit. People are confused about that now. And then it was like 3 minutes later, he was like, man, we get to go West Coast swing and race every day. And it's like, didn't you just say racing all the time? And I guess he said there was a downtime, but then he said he's told him where to go. And it's like, you still have a schedule. I was really confused there for a second. But I think there's a lot of things going on there. Corey Dunn says, I think Jacob understands that Flow will help raise their value by showing more about the drivers, like on dirt and the behind the scenes on the million. I agree. I mean, if that's what he's talking about, I get that. And I just got through saying that. I thought I just said that. But the actual broadcast, yeah, I just said that, didn't I say? Like, The dirt deal, I guess, but the actual broadcast, no comparison. But okay. I'm going to be honest. I want the Outlaws to fail. I honestly can't stand the World Racing Group. Now, funny enough, that seems to be a very common thing. It seems like there's a bunch of people who don't like the World Racing Group. I've tried to be fair. Like I said, I tried to save him last year, telling him to be nice with this thing, or this is what's coming, and here it is. But a lot of people seem to not like him. You know, I honestly think that they're doing bigger moves on the late model sides of things. I think their late model program is slowly taking over the Lucas Oil situation. I think the chase really hurt Lucas Oil. Obviously, if you were just tuning in, Lucas Oil switched their chase up, and instead of a single final race for the championship, they are going to do a playoff-style 4-race thing at the end of the year next year. 4 races after Knoxville, leading up to the final race at Eldora. But I hear a lot of people don't like World Racing Group. If World Racing Group was nice last year, they would have been taken advantage of. I don't think so. I think a lot of this stuff is emotionally reactive. I think they would have been fine with the midweek series. I just think that you're dealing with egos. You're dealing with people who are bosses, who are used to telling people what to do, and you're dealing with Brad Sweet, who's used to winning races and people being nice to him and his ideas. And I think his idea wasn't taken nicely. I think that it caused a lot of stir and mistreatment. And you piss people off, and they're going to come after you. And I think that's what happened. David Gravel's interview with Jacob Allen was better than with High Limit Crew, in my opinion. Well, of course. I mean, they still got that host on there that don't know what he's doing. I think the Larson effect is the reason why fans want World Racing Group to fail. If anyone else was part of High Limit, you wouldn't see the hate for World Racing Group. And you make a very good point. And you know what? If somebody else was doing High Limit, you know what? I'm gonna try to hold this comment here, because I actually had me some interesting conversations over the last 2 days that point to what you just said, Brad Bowden. If Larson, the only reason people are supporting it is because Larson is here. Hold on, we need to pin this. Let's see, pin message. Oh, all right. This is a good one. So I had me a conversation yesterday and today, actually. And this is a very similar thing. You know, Larson's doing something that everyone is supporting, that if somebody else did, it would be hated. It wouldn't be supported. Okay? Very, very similar to another situation that happened with Kyle. No? Do we not all remember in January, a few years ago, when a young racer, damn good racer, named Michael Facento at the Chili Bowl uttered an N-word after his race because somebody had N-worded him? Do we not remember that? And do we not remember how everyone reacted to him when he said it? Basically kicked out the building, basically ran out of town. I believe he was literally put on a plane and sent back home. Everybody disgusted. How could you get out? We can't have that around here. Little later in the year, Kyle Larson does it. And what was the reaction? In my opinion, I mean, still jokingly kind of was the greatest publicity stunt ever. If we're thinking Illuminati terms, I would have done the same thing. In an election year, you literally had Bubba Wallace kneeling and Kyle Larson saying the N-word. I mean, how could you not play both sides the best? Regardless, NASCAR's in with the game. What did we see when he said that word? Did the dirt world tell him get the hell out and never be seen again type of thing? Exile? Hell no. Y'all welcomed it in. Come over here. It's okay. You just made a mistake. It's okay. Come and race all these races and be the GOAT. So, in a way, what you're saying here, Brad, is probably 100,000% correct. If the icon, if the cold trickle of sprint car racing, which is what he is, once again, they pulled Gordon, California racer, same era, 3 years later. Gordon and Earnhardt, Rowdy and Cole racing in real life. NASCAR takes over. Then the driver swap with Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Juan Pablo then goes to Dale Earnhardt Ganassi Racing, which, by the way, the second coming of Cole did race for Rowdy in the movie. And then once the 24 of Jeff Gordon retires, Kyle Larson comes into the 42 owned by the man in black, Earnhardt. Interesting thing. But regardless, because that icon did something, because God in most people's lives, I mean, I'm sure there's some people with more Larson merch than God crosses, or they go to the racetrack more than they do church. Guarantee it's happening. It's real. It has to be. That's why it's okay. That's why it's okay. I don't want to get into deep religion, but that's kind of the interesting deal between Jesus and Muhammad. Oh, Jesus can do it, but Muhammad can't? Why? What's wrong? This is the chosen one over here. That's why. So it's back to worship ideologies. It's back to worship mentalities, worshiped figures. Guy down the streets putting a finger in the you-know-what-a? Oh, he needs to go to jail. Trump does it? Hell yeah, I do it too. So, you make a really good point here, Brad Bowden. You make a really damn good point here. It's the Larson effect. The Larsonites. Which, by the way, Larsonite is petrified wood. For those who have been to the petrified natural forest, like me and Scott Bloomquist, you might know what I'm talking about. But regardless, this is true. If I was to put out a new series, or even when Steve Kinzer and Lasowski did it, they got way more hatred than what we're seeing today for Larson and Brad. Way more response and a negative connotation. Way more people didn't like it. Whereas more people are jumping on board now and saying this. Saying it's good. Saying they hope, as we just saw a second ago, saying that we hope the World Racing Group fails. I'm cheering for Kyle with a special set of matched tires. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm pinning your comment, Brad. It's just as bad of a suggestion to say than the damn you can't park here, kid guy. Is there a path that would lead Flo and Lucas being only sprint cars and World Racing Group being only like... I don't think so. People used to say there was Dale Jr. rules. There was nothing compared to the Kyle Larson rules. Or that was nothing compared to the Kyle. Very true. Very true. I don't necessarily want the World of Outlaws to fail. I want them to see a dent in ticket sales and legitimacy due to people, be it drivers, officials, spectators, choosing to support driver freedom. It's driver freedom now, It is driver freedom now. Okay? So, I hate to say it. That's all really good debate versus, actually, I think we got us another one worth pinning. I wish somebody would send a super chat. We pin yours too. But these badass comments, I kind of reward more so how good you are, not how much money you can bring to my table. I know a lot of people in racing don't know how to do that. But, what you just said there is very interesting as well. I don't necessarily want World of Outlaws to fail. I want to see a dent in ticket sales and legitimacy due to people, be it drivers, officials, spectators, choosing to support driver freedom. Now, they are. Right now, it's driver freedom. And that's what I was going to say. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's very similar. I watched a really good debate. Go watch. It's a guy named Patrick Bet-David. I'll watch him occasionally. He's a level-headed guy. And he had two people on there to debate Islam versus Christianity. Full Islam supporter, full Christianity supporter on the other side. And the Christianity people was over there saying Jesus taught to love and give and to prosper and do all this stuff and adapt and all that and traditional Christian values. And the Islam guy was like, well, the modern Christianity isn't even really truly Christianity anymore. You know, traditional Christianity has been taken over by social acceptances and social norms where it should have stood its ground. And the extremism of Islam. And then the Christianity guy's like, well, you went to war, you overtook, you used all this power and corrupted and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the Islam guy said something that really resonated with me at the time. And he said, well, that's because y'all were at the time, the leader of Jesus was the leader of the slave class, the lower class. Christianity was not established with Jesus in a political power that could actually do things within the society, who had the hammer, the mallet, who had the power within the world to go to war, to enforce, to do this, to enforce the word of God or whatever. Y'all weren't in a class in that period of time to be able to even do that. And he said, if you want to judge what Christianity could potentially do with that type of political power, he used modernized examples of like the United States, who's supposedly a Christian nation that has went to war and enforced their beliefs on the entire world. And it makes really damn good sense, unfortunately. When a certain group gets into power, they enforce their ideology onto others. Now, some people are like, oh, we did it for the right reasons. Once again, I'll leave the link if you need it. But when we dropped the bombs in Hiroshima, the treaty was already signed. There was no reason to drop them bombs except for the fact we wanted to show everybody we got a big dick. And we didn't want our money to go to waste. So, regardless, I'm not really on either side of this religion deal. I'll probably slide over to Christianity a little bit more. But that was a really good point. And I think that point translates over to here, honestly. I think that point translates to high limit supports driver freedom now, because that's all that they can operate within. They don't have a strong hold on the political system of the sprint car racing domain. They're not in that privileged, powerful position. They're in this position where they're having to not panhandle to the freedom, but promote on that freedom. Who in the hell is messaging me? Leave me alone right now. Oh, that guy. He's really upset that I just said that. But they're not in a position to, enforce their ways of what they want and desire. They're having to play off this freedom deal because it's the opposite of the other side. Almost similar to the Christianity deal. It's easier to say, let's accept and love when the rulers of the world are saying, let's rape and pillage, So it's like, You have to play another side, and the only other side to play right now in the sprint car world is freedom, because the lockdown contractual you can't race unless we tell you side is over on the World of Outlaws sprint car side. Now, if High Limit was to get to a position how the World of Outlaws have been for years now, where they're in the political system, they own it, and they have to worry now about threats to their brand, they might act like the World of Outlaws did to High Limit. I know I'm stepping on my own face here a little bit, but they might act the same way. You don't know, you can't know, because the reality of the situation is High Limit's not in a position to enforce their beliefs onto the entire sprint car world. Whereas the World of Outlaws, they have been in that position politically within the sprint car world to enforce beliefs and rules. And how many rules have we heard about across the country being switched and changed because it's something that the Outlaws want to do? Now, back to the charter system with the High Limit sprint car series, the charter system kind of locks you in a way. Maybe the drivers have some freedom, but if it's anything like the NASCAR system, you kind of own a stake within the series. And the only way to get out of that stake is to sell your part of the stake. I'm not sure for 100% if that is the case right now with the High Limit deal. But that's the end goal with the charter deal. You get a stake within, funny, they mentioned communism. It is a little bit like it in this aspect where you're now attached. You're like the deep state. You're in with the plan, you know. So if the plan goes down, you go down with it. If you want to get out, you got to sell what you're doing. So it is not necessarily against driver freedom, but team freedom, depending on how all they got it structured. If it's full-blown, if it ever becomes full-blown charter system based, once a team gets involved, you're in it, and the only way to get out of it is to sell it. And you could sell it low or you could sell it high, depending on the series or what the initial buy-in was and how popular the series gets. Like NASCAR, I think their last team was $35 million, which is way more than a lot of people think it's worth, but somebody's willing to pay it. There it is. So it is interesting that you say driver freedom, because I'm not sure if you can say supporting high limit is technically supporting driver freedom long term. I don't know if any of these sides technically truly want driver freedom 100%. We'll see in 5 or 6 years if high limit was to take over the market and become, once again, in that powerful position. How will they act when they are on the throne? They're not on the throne right now, so we don't know. Would they support driver freedom if they were the ones running the country? Just how that Islam and that Christian was saying, would you really be just nice to the world and everyone out there if you weren't in the slave class, if you weren't in the low class, if you were in the position of the Muhammad era where you have all this power? Would you be so nice? Because we have a newer example, modern examples of Christianity run nations that are not necessarily so nice. I mean, depending if you agree with what they think or not, which is what they were doing. You know, if you were against how we believe and what we think is right, die, you know. I mean, that's kind of what, you know, if you don't align with this and you do the wrong things, or, you know, whatever happened on 9/11 happens, I mean, it's on, you know. So, I mean, I'm just saying. So that'll be interesting to see. They're not in the throne right now. So I know what you're saying as far as currently support driver freedom. But when you get into the charter system and you think about how high limit is promoting on that fact, because it's about all you can do, I don't know. How much driver freedom is it when you're racing pretty much almost every weekend from April to October? And your open weeks, I think there's a week prior to Knoxville that's open, and the week prior to the Eldora races that are open, and July 4th weekend that is open. And you also have the Houston High Bank Nationals that's open. So, I mean, these are races that you're going to go to, and National Grove is open, or Williams Grove National Open is open as well. But these are races that if you're Rico, you're Brent Marks, you're any of these Marquis, you're Justin Peck, you're going to go to these races. So I look at the World of Outlaw drivers possibly racing less next year than a high limit full timer. And if you don't go to every one of those races that are scheduled, I have to look into it and see if they got like an off night that you can just miss. But if they're doing status quo, which is what most people would think, if you don't go to those 60 races, I mean, your contracts, your alliance, throw it out the window, right? You can't just like not go to a high limit race because you want to go run over here for a weekend. I think. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a question. I don't know. Is that in the contract? Because I know in charter systems like NASCAR and stuff, you can't just go. Hell, they're trying to keep them from doing snowboarding. They're keeping Christopher Bell from dirt track racing over there. So, I mean, that's the system over there, right? Full control. Full control. Good comment, though. Good comment. Let's see. Unpin that one. Do we have any more fan-funded super chat? We don't. Oh, my. No funding. I'm here going live for an hour, and you don't even give a damn. Freaking whiteys. It's because I told the truth about the whole Larson and all that. Religion and politics are bad enough by themselves. Combine them, it's certain doom. Certain doom. If they test drivers for weed, then they should give breathalyzer tests on drivers at the track to see who drinks before they race. Well, and I think that, like I said, I'm not against marijuana usage. The reason that it's illegal is insane. Once again, Declaration of Independence is wrote on weed paper. This country used to jail people, put people in prison if they refused to grow weed on their land. This is an interesting thing, because weed, once again, stays in your system for an abundant amount of time because it is absorbed by your fat cells in your body because your body doesn't recognize it as poison. The reason that you get alcohol out of you so quick, not in just breathing and peeing, because every time you breathe, there's actually alcohol escaping your body, is because alcohol is a poison, guys. Alcohol is a poison. And, looks like we just lost some comments. Alcohol is a poison, and that is one of the reasons why it escapes your body. That's all these other drugs, the cocaines, the methamphetamines, all these things, they leave your body in such a quicker amount of time because your body recognizes it as a poison, as a carcinogen. It gets rid of it. So doing breathalyzers, I mean, guy could drink in the morning the night before and be good. Test for weed could be 60 to 90 days, and you could still test positive. And you're technically testing positive because you put something in your body that is not recognized as a poison, which I don't understand how we're rewarding people for putting things in their body that are poison and punishing those who aren't. But it goes back to DuPont and the whole situation. And if we want to go talk about DuPont and all that, it goes right back into Cold Trickle and everybody. I mean, it's obviously the 24 DuPont Rainbow. A lot of stuff behind that one. A lot of stuff. Let's take the shittiest part of NASCAR and put it in sprint car racing, says Kyle Larson with the Charters. I don't know. You are dependent on big corporations and owners. They do get to dictate a little bit more. How much do you trust owners in today's society? We'll see. Spire bought for around $40 million. So it must have went up. I was hearing Dale Jr. complain about it being 35, but it went up. Little Caesars becoming Little Caesars. That's correct. That's exactly what's happening. I don't want to see the World of Outlaws to fail. Just do one thing. Do away, I guess, with thieving, redraws, and just run how you run your finish in your heat race straight up. So they want to get away with they want to get rid of dashes, I believe. Chaz, what would happen to the series if Larson got injured and couldn't race? I don't think that they're marketing their weekly series based on Larson. I think people are going to be confused. I think Dirt Tracker nailed it on the head where High Limit's going to get some, or racetracks are going to get some evil messages thinking that they came to a High Limit race and didn't see Kyle and they're mad and want their money back. I think that could happen. But I don't think Larson technically is going to threaten the success of the entire series. Those midweek races would definitely tank, though, if Kyle Larson could not show up. And I know I just hit a vape after talking about poison and all that, but hey, gotta fix these knees. You know, my knees kind of bothered me the last couple of days, and you know, tobacco usage and nicotine is actually good for your joints. Crazy enough, there's a lot of disinformation out there. Everybody says, oh, we ain't taking the shot, we ain't taking this, and screw the vaccines and all this. I don't trust Big Pharma, but you trust Big Pharma with pretty much every informational idea you got. God, man. If you miss races in High Limit, you don't get your weekly money either. Not sure about that, but when it surprised me. The weed tests are driven by insurance companies more than the series. Good idea. Good point. I mean, what does UFC say? I mean, they're out there beating the hell out of each other potentially. Racing a race car. Once again, I think the society in our world right now, and maybe cops can help with that, or whatever's been going on in Colorado. Obviously, they legalized weed extremely early, but there needs to be a test of some sort to tell if you are under the influence of marijuana. I don't know if they could do that with a breathalyzer or some kind of. I know people get the redder eyes when they get a little toasted. But there needs to be some kind of test that can actually test in the moment, at the moment, if a person is under the influence of marijuana. And then you can properly police it. The basic P test for weed is outdated, doesn't technically test for under the influence. You can't test properly for under the influence with the P test because it's in your body. Weed stays in your body because it is not a poison. Once again, Adderall is pharmaceutical meth. Yes, it is. Pretty sure majority of the pits are legal prescribers. Ooh, interesting. Well, people got to stay on the road. They got to keep going up and down the road. They got to change these tires late in the night. They got to wash the car till 4 a.m. Let her ride. Who cares about Adderall? I would love to see an Adderall test because I would consider methamphetamine, based on how creepy people get when I see them on it, going down the road. Performance enhancing drugs should be methamphetamine in a sprint car. I mean, and dangerous. I mean, you ain't ever going to stop. I mean, no wonder they could turn the wheel so fast and pull a tear off in like 1 millisecond. You probably could do that a little quicker if you're on some Adderall and some meth. I'm just saying. I mean, I would assume. They say it makes you go quicker and do this and that. I mean, I guess. I don't think Adderall should be legal. It's a performance enhancing drug in motorsports with reactions and being all jittery quick. I mean, who knows? I don't know. Maybe so. I don't know. I would definitely outlaw that. With all the staff on payroll, startup costs with the equipment and no races, I'm sure the credit line is going to be a lot. It's going to take a few years to pay off. Charter profit. Yeah, but I hear it's like 50% of the revenue from streaming that's going to be dispersed to the teams that sign. That's what I've been hearing. Not sure if it's 100% correct. Legal in Ohio today, yee-hee, apparently. $500 for a dash winner. Winner of the dash drew one of the 3 pills. I do think you could do top 4 and 5 through 8. The late models do 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 on the redraws. I think the World of Outlaws could do that with their top 2 from the heat races. The winners draw 1 through 4. Second places drawing 5 through 8. I think that's the best way to do it. That's why Tyler Walker was so good. That's so mean. If you got an Adderall script in racing, you should be required to smoke weed to even it out. That's funny. That's potentially true. Charter in sprint car series, more NAS crap. BS already moving me to the negative side. Oh, boy. The dark side. The dark side of the sprint car world. Can we get another super chat? I mean, I got 1 super chat. I mean, we're just over the hour here. We are going to have to get on out. And tomorrow night, remember, we got the live call-ins. Only a $2 super chat. How embarrassing. Corey Dunn. I've talked like 6 times faster, more entertaining, and longer than David Gravel. And y'all, I'm a $2.99 hoe for y'all. That's just not right, guys. That's just not right. Anyways. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot more headlines come over the next 2 days. It's going to be very, very entertaining to see what other drivers, maybe a Brent Marks or somebody. Man, how surprising would it be if Brian Brown went to high limit? What about Tanner Holmes? Spencer Baston, I'm hearing get ready. Tyler Courtney, get ready. So there's some stuff coming. Baston, I don't know. I think it's a toss-up. I think Courtney's going to go high limit. But we'll see. 2 more days left at PRI. We're going to be here. We're going to react live tomorrow night with some calls, with some chats. That way we can, be up a little later on a Friday night for everybody out there and get some nice little long-form discussions in. And that's the plan as we see it right now. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, even if you didn't send a damn super chat, you can still join the support. Links are in the description. Also, the membership button underneath the video here. You can like and share the video. Sharing is just as big as joining the support. I'm telling you, getting the word out there is more important to me. Also, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10K before the end of the year. We wasted 20, 30K on Facebook. Oh, hold on. I just looked over. Ken Joseph with $10. I'm a $10 Euhala guy. $4.99. I'm going to have to call in. I have a big message that I wouldn't post. Okay, Tyler Phillips. I'll meet your ass here tomorrow night. I will meet your ass here tomorrow night for that call in. But thank y'all too for chipping in. It means a lot for this little show. This is a little show. I do everything on my damn own. It ain't like I got a guy remotely doing everything or anything of the sorts. All the designing, all the shirts, everything. I do it myself. If you like the shirts, go to the website. We got a link in the description. New arrivals. We got the Throwback Dirt Track State of Mind shirts that just came out. New Long Live the Chaz long sleeve and hoodies, as well as a t-shirt, I believe. And also the Professional Gaslighter shirts. Those things are just bad ass. I also am going to be giving away one of the Professional Gaslighter winter gaiters. This is a very thick material. It's for wintertime usage. Perfect for racetracks, keeping the dirt pretty much out of everything that you want. And definitely warm. This is a thicker material, a more expensive material. And I have one right here in this package ready to ship out. And I got to find a way to give it away. Give me some cool ideas. What's some cool ideas? Should we do the raffle for the Kyle Larson Chili Bow Championship barrier banner over here? Barricade banner? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. As always, once again, please be sure to subscribe and live calls tomorrow. We will catch you next time. Live calls tomorrow. I edited it horrible there. That was bad. I even stepped on myself. Ugh. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. As always, yeah. I can't even end it. Am I supposed to end it? Am I supposed to keep going? That's never happened. Something took over here. Maybe it's a demon. Yep. It's a demon.
We can ride high, we can ride low. We can ride anywhere we need to go. We can ride all night up to the morning, as long as we make the show. We can be the best, or we can be the worst. So we can be the best thing you ever heard. With the motor singing and the grandstands ringing, it's hard to